jobless claims are still going strong. And the numbers that a lot of people have hypothesized here, and there's articles upon articles about this stuff, is that right now we're currently at 211,000. And so what that means is that's the moving average of jobless claims. And a lot of people believe that until the 4-week average gets into like the 3.25 range, 325,000, somewhere around there, that the Fed is not going to be happy. And this is just a data point. Now, a lot of these data points have been right. So this is based on what's happening. And until we see jobless claims fall, we could see more of this. And coming out of this meeting, it was very interesting. And this was 2 weeks ago. I was happy they didn't raise rates. I thought it was a good thing, right? And then Fed comes out and they just start talking all this, well, we did this now, but we're really concerned about what's going to happen. And we're probably going to have to raise rates again. And we're definitely not cutting them and blah, 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 blah. And they go on and on about how bad things are. Yet everyone else is saying we're in a restrictive environment right now. And that's, to me, is what keeping mortgage rates and the market where it is, because they're reacting to the comments, not the actual policy decisions.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, we see all the time when comments can affect many, many things. Somebody throws out a comment and,
Yes.
all heck breaks loose. So, yeah, the less that they say is probably the best. Now, when we talk about these jobless claims, I mean, that's unemployment.
Mm-hmm.
So that means that these are individual people. So and that's what they're hell-bent on too, is getting that number higher. So having more people unemployed. And I guess that's going to trigger people to stop spending money, and maybe that will affect their numbers. But to me, that's a really not a good way to solve the problem, is to make people unemployed.
Yeah, and that's the thing to think about here. So I've got a little bit of a dated article, but this comes out from Axios, which is a data service, and we look at people who file for unemployment benefits. That's where this number comes from, and the issue with that is that that not everyone's filing unemployment, right? So there could be more people without jobs, but maybe they're deciding, hey, you know what, I'm going to stay home with my family, so I'm not going to file for this, or they're working on getting another job and they don't want to file, or there's some other, maybe they got a severance package. You don't
Right.
know, and it's reliant on filings, not the actual state of the economy. So that's one factor here.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what happens, I mean, we've got another Fed meeting in a month, so we're not going to hear anything until the beginning of November about what happens here. And the Fed might need to calm down a little bit, but I don't think they're going to, and I think that's the challenge. So we've got all this stuff happening here. I don't see rates coming down. We've talked about this many times. So now, how do consumers react to this? Because we're here to talk about real estate. So Zillow had a consumer report that just came out, and it reveals 4, I thought, major takeaways for home buyers. And I want to get your take on each one of these. So in this survey and in this report, 58% of prospective buyers said they've been home shopping for at least the past 6 months. 1 in 5 say they've shopped for between 1 and 2 years.
Wow.
And 1 in 7 have been shopping for 3 years or more. And compared to, prospective first-time buyers, that's 51%. Repeat buyers are about 62%. They're more likely to be shopping for a home in the last 6 months. So does that create an opportunity for agents knowing how long some of these people have been out there? I mean, and then of the respondents, 49% said they were waiting for the housing market to become more favorable to buyers. That's half. What do you see in terms of like what guidance should agents be giving to folks here? Because this is what buyers are feeling in the market right now.
Yeah. Well, I would really want to sit down with my clients and make sure that they understand what's really happening in the market, especially at the local level. And just give them some background about where we were, where we are now, where we were historically, and where we are now, and how the market is not going to crash, because we still hear that too. And I have to find out where they are and what is their motivation, because that's really telling to me where they are as far as how serious they are about making a purchase. Do they have a house to sell and they want to, and they do want to buy, can they buy first? There's so many things that you have to find out first before you can guide your folks. The 14%, 1 in 7 that had been shopping for 3 years or more, they, to me, might be the ones that don't have real motivation to move. They're just looking for the perfect opportunity. And then they're also the ones that missed out on the lower interest rates.
Mm-hmm.
So they could be
Great
part of the
point.
ones that are sitting around waiting for the market to crash or prices to drop. So I'm not sure how motivated that group of people are. The people that are shopping between, the 1 and 2 years, I still meet with a lot of those that are in that range.
Mm-hmm.
They might have a house that it's livable for them, but they're outgrowing it. And they just haven't been able to make that, that initial move to list it. But the 58% that have been shopping for the past 6 months, they're coming into the market where the interest rates were higher anyway than those people that were in, 3 or more years ago, or even 2 years ago. So they might not be as jaded by the, quote, high interest rates, unquote. The rates are what they are. And they, if they have a real need to move, that's what you really have to distill down. What is the motivation? And those people are going to transact. It's, the mid 7s and the low 7 interest rates are very normal, actually. You just have to educate your clients to make sure that they have a full understanding and get to their monthly bottom number. What's their monthly payment? Where do they want to be? Have them talk to a lender. Because the lender is going to give them all that financial information that they're going to need to make a more clear decision.
So you articulated that really well. I'm clear. I see the reason why this is happening.
Why?
Most agents have abandoned meeting with clients before they show properties. They think, I'm just going to put them into a home. And we've talked about this at length.
Right.
And this is not going back to basics. I would say this is an advanced strategy for agents because most agents don't do it. And it obviously works.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not educating them on what's happening in the market. So that to me is, like you said, sit down with them. That's an opportunity. And the serious folks, they're going to want to meet with you and see what the heck is going on so they can understand the process. So love your strategy there. So we got 3 more takeaways from this. Many buyers in the market, especially first-time home buyers, they said one of the number one delays that prospective buyers have, more than 56% intend to put less than 20% down, and saving for a down payment's one of them. We're seeing down payment assistance programs right now and some other things that are happening. So is that something you're educating your buyers on at this meeting, at this time when you sit down with them and show them what's going on?
Absolutely, 100%. Because that's step number 1. They have to find out what kind of financial products that are available to them, because there's so many.
Mm-hmm.
There are those programs that you talked about where the lenders are going to get, oh my gosh, I guess it was last week. I heard of a lender that was giving $15,000 towards closing costs as an incentive. So to me, that's mind-blowing.
Not a seller's assist. This was a lender, a gift,
incentive.
Or a creditor, whatever the RESPA rules say.
Yes, exactly. Okay. So to me, that was mind-blowing. But yes, there are opportunities to get seller assist, and also, ask sellers for, to buy down the rates. So I think when it comes down to getting, conveying more detailed information about the rate buy downs, I would then pass these people on to a number of lenders that we work hand in hand with that have so many different loan programs. And whatever's going to work best for the client, that's where they will guide them. But there are so many options. There's as low as 3% conventional, and you still have the FHA and the VA programs. I think a lot of buyers don't know that there's a lot of flexibility in these financial products. So I think they really need to find out what's going to be best for them, because then they're going to feel better about moving forward.
Okay, so we're in agreement there. And then number 3, the third reason a lot of people are delaying this decision is the short supply of homes. That's a 43% survey result of the most common reason for delayed home buying. And so what are you doing to get more supply in front of your folks? Because what I argue here is that they're just not seeing it fast enough. They're not in a spot where they can react quickly, and it's something. It's mainly because the agents and or however they're searching, it's a flawed process. They're not getting with someone who can get them literally like real time data about what's becoming available.
Well, the best real time data is in our MLS system. So because that's where all the big websites pull from anyway. Zillow is pulling from our MLS. So, and there's lag time. They're like 24 to 48 hours behind. So what I do is I get the criteria that the buyers are looking for. What school districts, the type of home, are you open to everything? Single family, townhouse, condo, whatever that may be. Filter out some other options. And then make sure I set them up that if they're really super motivated and have like a really quick deadline of where they want to be, like a lease is ending, then I'll put them on instant. So whenever a new listing hits the market, they're getting a ping from me in their inbox. This way it cuts down their time of looking on all those big websites. And if you've ever had to do that, you know how time consuming it can be. So I think that's super, super important. Get them on these home drips. Let them, be annoying for a couple of months until they get their property, and then they can disengage all that. But that way they're going to see all the new inventory, and you can book appointments right away and get into the property ASAP. And if they love it, write the offer. That's been my method. That's how I've been able to get people under contract quickly.
Well, and you bring up something there and this is a mistake that I see sellers don't even know about, is they don't find an agent who's going to give them a pre-launch campaign, give them a coming soon listing where there's time to ramp up the marketing to the home for showings. Because the reality is, you could see a home today. Let's say you got kids or a family or life, right? You may not be able to go look at it for 3 or 4 days.
Right.
And sometimes that's not fast enough. And when you give people a week or 2 week lead time in terms of here's when the home's going to hit the market, here's when showings start, you can move some things around and actually like adjust your schedule. So if you have an agent, if you're a seller listening right now that is not launching the property in a predictable manner with a schedule in place, taking advantage of the weekend and giving it some time, you're leaving money on the table. I am very clear on that.
Yes.
So here's number 4, and then we're gonna take a quick break here. So the majority of home buyers, 69%, intend to finance their home purchase, right? Very normal. 23% in Zillow's survey of the people that answered said they were pre-approved for a loan. But when asked what it means to be a pre-qualified buyer, only 1 in 5, 21%, would use the term to describe someone who has saved enough for a down payment. And a little under 1 in 5 think pre-approval and pre-qualification are the same thing. And then another 15% said they had no idea what it means. So since 1/3 of the buyers in the survey are first-time buyers, I mean, is that something you're having a conversation about, how to be ready to take advantage of the market, Stacey?
Yes, and this is something else I run into also, because buyers, especially first-time home buyers, even second-time home buyers, but they'll put the cart before the horse. They actually start browsing and looking at houses first and, oh, I love this house. I want to go see it. Of course, I'll take them out and go see it. And then we have that conversation. And then they realize, oh, I don't even know. I have not talked to a lender. So I think the 15% that admitted they had no idea what it means, they have not probably talked to an agent. So that's why it's so important to get with an agent that's going to help you through this process, guide you in the right direction. If you're not working with a lender, then most agents have trusted lenders that they work with. And ours are. If they say they can get it done, they'll get it done. So the pre-qualified buyer is basically they've had a verbal intake of information and maybe a credit hit. But the pre-approved or the pre-committed, which I love, they've already been through the underwriting process. So they are super ready to go. And you can compete a little bit more if you're already underwritten.
So all of my takeaways here and what I'm hearing from you is that in spite of maybe the Fed losing control of the market, the rates are going to be what they are. And if you're serious about transacting, getting informed up front, it's the biggest concern people have. I mean, there's 4 reasons people are delaying this process. And the folks that are waiting it's end up costing them more money. I mean, we've seen this over and over again, or they don't get the house they want. It's one of the 2 outcomes. So make sure that whoever you're talking to, and if you're talking to an agent that's not doing this, it might be time to find a new agent, get their reviews, vet them, have a strategy session, have a planning meeting, interview the agent that you're thinking about hiring, it doesn't take a long time. It's maybe 15, 20 minutes tops. I mean,
Right.
how long do these meetings take?
Not too long.
So
It depends on how many questions they have, but not too long.
for sure.
Mhm.
And then you're able to go in and make an informed decision instead
Yes.
of, hey, Stacey, I like this house. What do I do next? Which
Right.
is what happens in a lot of cases. So there's a lot to digest with all the things happening in the market. Home buying doesn't need to be that complicated. Neither does home selling. It's about getting the right information up front. And someone like Stacey is certainly able to do that. So we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. We are going to talk about Redfin and leaving the NAR, the National Association of Realtors. This is very fascinating. Next on Tool Time, Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM. Welcome back to Tool Time, Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM. I'm Tom Toole. She's Stacey Mitchell. We have our growth manager, superstar team member, Greta Considine here as well, and Nick is behind the camera. And we all work at the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Main Line. So if you get some value out of this, we're on YouTube every single week. Do us a favor, subscribe to the channel, give us a like. Would mean a lot. And again, we all work at the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Main Line, the #1 RE/MAX team in Pennsylvania since 2018. Big news here about NAR. The story just won't stop, which is not a good thing. Because if it was not a big deal, this would have been the end of the story. We would have stopped talking about this weeks ago. So if you're not following what's going on with NAR, I'm just going to go over 2 key points. There is a class action lawsuit going to court in 13 days where the NAR is mentioned. Other large companies were part of that suit. Anywhere, RE/MAX, Keller Williams, Home Services, RE/MAX and RE/MAX and Anywhere have settled and are no longer part of the suit. This is one of 2 class action lawsuits. And now Redfin came out yesterday and said they are ending their support of the National Association of Realtors. And there were 2 key reasons. One, NAR policies requiring a fee for buyer agent compensation on every listing. They're not the first people to break with this. Bright MLS already did that. That's the 2nd largest MLS in the country and the one we use here. And NAR's pattern of sexual harassment. Very disappointing in general with the second part here. Probably, I think that's even a larger issue than the first part from just a well-being and human interest standpoint. So they came out that this letter drops yesterday. And here's the statement from Glenn Kelman, Redfin CEO. We've had many meetings with NAR execs to explore compromises on the policies that would let us continue our support. Since a Redfin-wide initiative to join NAR in 2017, we've paid more than $13 million in dues in an effort to influence NAR to advocate for open, technology-driven marketplace that would benefit consumers. We'll now explore other ways to advance those goals. Ladies, what do you think about this?
I think this is going to, it could set some wheels in motion. If they're the first one to get out of NAR, from under NAR, that's going to hit the NAR monetarily. That right now, with all the negativity swirling around them, this is just one more kind of like knife in the back there that they don't need. They don't need any more negative, press. But also, with Redfin paying more than $13 million in dues, and they're thinking, what are we getting for that money? What's really coming of it? And they don't want to be associated with an organization that has such negativity swirling around them.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see with, what precedent is set here now with them making this first move, because as we've seen so far, there have been some other big name brokerages that have already settled. And so, who's going to be next in, making this next step here would be my question.
Yeah, exactly. It should really concern NAR. And we do know that some of the staff at NAR have been demanding the resignation of the CEO, and that hasn't happened. I think he's just waiting for his, the end of the year for his financial gain for that. But unfortunately, this is what's going to happen to the organization.
Yeah, and it makes me nervous about the industry as a whole moving forward, and everything that's been going on with what's happening with buyer agency and how that's going to change and affect things as we move forward.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so there's a couple things to account for here. One, they're actually going to stick with the local associations if they need access to the MLS. So that's part of the monopoly that's here. Bright MLS already broke from NAR on this uniform buyer agent offer of compensation. It seemed like what Glenn Kelman said, when the harassment issues came to light, that's when it came to another level. And it was not lost on them that NAR did not take action until after the New York Times expose, which I think is a big problem that a lot of people see. And CEO Bob Goldberg said there wasn't a problem within the organization. So it's, and now you've got, and we talked about this, I don't know if it was last week or the week before, this is just going on and on, where they've really got a clean house there, and a lot of people want that to happen. So even before the sexual harassment scandal went public with the New York Times, Redfin already left the board because of the policies around the buyer commission rule. And so it's not like, I think it was the straw that broke the camel's back here, if you will. And Redfin is going to require many of their agents leave NAR. So, most brokerages are only a loose affiliation of independent agents, and none of us wants to impose a policy that could alienate any of the people who generate our revenue. And that's what Redfin CEO Glenn Kelman said as well. So, there's a lot of things happening. And especially some of these cities. Houston, Vegas, Nashville, Phoenix. You have to be members of the NAR in order to gain MLS access. But their Redfin agents are no longer going to have to pay dues in some places. This includes markets like New York City, who doesn't have an MLS, Boston, Seattle. It really depends on the state. We're kind of stuck here in Pennsylvania because of our affiliation with Bright. So this is step one. And I what we don't know is that what's the terms of the settlements with these lawsuits. Specifically, like RE/MAX, it sounded like, from what we were reading in between the lines on, they may have a similar term in their lawsuit as part of the settlement. We don't know what that looks like. So, and that might be part of the franchise agreements that get adjusted, because it's a different model. With Redfin, you're an employee. RE/MAX, it's a franchisee. So it's obviously very different. So this is, I'm really curious to see what's going to happen here, because you haven't heard anything from NAR about these commission lawsuits, except that they're steadfast. They haven't done anything wrong. Anywhere and RE/MAX, again, already settled. Keller Williams and Home Services, who's the parent company to like Berkshire Hathaway and some other large real estate brands, they're still slated to go to trial in 2 weeks. So then, on top of all this, the DOJ now is intervening in the MLS Pin lawsuit. So this was this is a Massachusetts MLS, and there was a settlement agreement up there for this specific MLS that, because it was a class action antitrust buyer broker compensation lawsuit, a lot smaller than the large class action ones. And then Thursday, the DOJ indicates they had concerns about the proposed settlement between the home sellers and the MLS Pin, and now they filed a motion to extend the deadline. So this is not going away, and this was surprising to me that the settlement's getting questioned now. The DOJ is requesting that the court push the final approval from January 4th until March 7th of next year, so basically an extra 60 days. And just to give some intel here, and then I want to get your reaction, Stacey and Greta, the MLS Pin said it was going to pay $3 million in settlement costs, change its commission policies, and cooperate against the remaining defendants in the lawsuit. And apparently that $3 million was going to get broken down, with $900,000 going towards attorney fees, so just a little less than 1/3, $200,000 to expenses, so now you're at $1.1 million, $250,000 going towards notifying, not paying them, notifying the settlement class members, and each of the three named lead plaintiffs will get up to $2,500 for being class representatives. And then $1.6425 million would be used to pay further expenses for litigation against the remaining defendants for the benefit of the settlement class members. So I don't see a lot of settlement going anywhere except attorney's fees.
Totally.
And like $250,000 for notifying them. You can't send out an email. That's free. So the DOJ is now opening this up. So I've got concerns for these people that haven't settled, seeing what the DOJ is doing here in a much smaller lawsuit. What's your reaction?
Yeah. Well, anytime the DOJ gets involved, it's concerning. Yeah. And it's amusing, these expenses. Who's winning here are the attorneys. So I think that, yeah, it was right for Remax to settle and to move on from this mess, because it does seem like it's getting much deeper in the weeds here.
They got off easy.
Yeah.
$55 million?
Yeah.
Like that's a win. That's less than what Anywhere had to settle for.
Yeah, unless, I mean, who's to say that the DOJ might not get involved in all those other settlements, right?
Yeah, that's just going to create further
Yeah.
uncertainty as we move forward here until we see, a few more people potentially settling or some things, weeding out.
Right. Yeah. I think, I mean, the DOJ has overturned a couple of things that were settled anyway already. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if, first of all, the trial actually happens in a couple of weeks, if the other companies don't settle or try to offer a settlement. So I think the next few weeks are going to be very interesting pertaining to all of this that's going on.
So the takeaway here is that it seems like NAR is, again, tone deaf to what agents and members are saying about the organization, whether it's with this suits, plural, or with these sexual harassment issues that apparently are rampant, allegedly, at NAR. I'm saying allegedly, not because I don't believe them, but that's the right thing to say. So, and there's all these forces that are at work right now where you see, I mean, Glenn Kelman is a smart guy. I've seen him speak live. Nick Bailey, I've met a number of times, right? I mean, I've seen the leaders of these organizations. I'm a little surprised Keller Williams hasn't settled, because I've got a lot of respect for Gary Keller, but there's a lot going on there. They've had their own problems. I just don't get where NAR is coming from, and this may undo the entire organization. And when you see people leaving, right? I mean, it's not a good thing.
Yeah, that's not a good thing at all.
Not at all.
No. And I think if, as I said, if somebody jumps ship, there's going to be more that are going to see, because where's the benefit? What is the benefit to being associated with that organization? It seems like everything's so negative around them at this point, and they're, like you said, Tom, tone deaf. They're not even trying to get a handle on what's going on. So I just think that, I don't know, it does not look good for them.
And what Redfin's asking, I find this to be fascinating here. They're asking NAR to decouple NAR membership from MLS access, because if let's say we as a company or we as a team or whatever we decided to do, we wanted to opt out of our NAR membership. We can't do that or we lose MLS access. And that's you're kind of handcuffed. Not kind of, you are handcuffed.
You are, yeah.
Right? So the statement from Redfin explicitly asks NAR to decouple those, because a lot of people only join NAR for MLS access, and removing that requirement could cost them millions of dollars in membership dues.
I think if they remove that requirement, I don't think NAR will be in existence.
There's no reason why NAR would be in existence. The only reason why agents are a part of it is because we have to be to keep our licenses active.
So, yeah.
And this is
I think
coming
it'll
from,
go away.
just to give some perspective here. I mean, Greta has sold real estate in other states. It's not like she's only worked here, and that's really important. And, it's what's happening now, and what Glenn Kelman goes on to say is that agents shouldn't have to underwrite policies and legal efforts that hurt consumers, when most of us got into real estate to help consumers. And that's part of their company's mission. I mean, we can go into questioning their business model and the competency of their agents all you want. That statement makes a lot of sense to me, and the MLS is a direct benefit for that. And that's then they have this clear cooperation rule, and they're trying to get everyone to basically, you got to use the MLS. The flip side is New York City real estate agents, and New York City does not have an MLS. And the people that they sell tons of properties, they're wildly successful, just like all the good agents are in their respective markets.
Yep.
So, and it's you don't hear anything coming out of NAR. The only statement they had was, NAR stands by its pro-consumer, pro-competitive guidance for affiliate local broker marketplaces that ensure equity, efficiency, transparency, and market-driven pricing options for home sellers and buyers. That statement is a nothing burger. It's a PR statement. It means absolutely nothing, and that's all you've been hearing from NAR lately.
Just a bunch of canned statements.
Pretty much.
Yep.
Yeah, they're not saying much.
So do you see any more companies pulling back from NAR?
I do. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it'll maybe start a, trend moving forward with what Redfin's done here, but kind of like back to what Tom was saying, they've got a different brokerage model where, they have W-2 employees. I think they have a little bit more room to be able to make those decisions with, looking at the broader picture of the company, whereas these other brokerages are focusing on, a lot of 1099 independent contractors. And what does that mean moving forward? It would be my question.
Mm-hmm.
So again, just to revisit the Remax settlement, because there was a lot more information that came out about that than the one with Anywhere. Is that they agreed, Remax agreed to make certain changes to its business practices, and here's what the email said. So Remax entered into a nationwide class settlement with the plaintiffs in the Burnett and Morrill cases. If approved by the court, the settlement proves the way for a clear path forward for the Remax brand, franchisees, agents, removing the uncertainty of ongoing litigation. Smart move. Remax refutes the allegations presented in the lawsuits. This forward-looking decision was made in the best interest of Remax LLC, its agents, and franchisees, after carefully considering the significant risks and costs associated with continued litigation. And then there's some speculation here that there could be changes made to the franchises agreements. There could be things that I've heard rumors that maybe they don't have to follow the code of ethics anymore. I mean, there's all these things that are going on, and it's an interesting thing. So the same guy who made that nothing burger of a statement for NAR said settlement's always an option. NAR's commitment to defend ourselves in court remains unchanged, and we're confident we will prevail. I mean, it's great.
Wow.
But I don't know if that's the best business decision here. And it's going to be fascinating to see what happens. So, I mean, Redfin leaving is not insignificant. They've got arguably one of the best websites in the industry. So, I wouldn't be surprised if other people follow suit.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's going to depend on the companies, too. I think Redfin's a little bit of they're more of, I'm trying to think of the right word here. They're more of like a rogue startup company than some of these tried and true brands. They're not named in the lawsuit either, so that might have something to do with it.
Right.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. We're going to talk all about Greta Considine next on Toole Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM. All right. Welcome back to Toole Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM. I'm Tom Toole. She's Stacey Mitchell. She's Greta Considine. And we've got Nick behind the camera. And we all work at the Tom Toole Sales Group at Remax Mainline, the #1 Remax team in Pennsylvania since 2018. If you get some value out of the show here, do us a favor. Make sure to subscribe and like it on YouTube. We're also on Instagram and Facebook streaming live every week. So what we're here to talk about is our amazing growth manager, Greta Considine. So Greta's got one of those jobs where it's like behind the scenes. People within the company obviously know her, but a lot of people don't know her outside the company. So tell us a little bit about your background, Greta, first, who you are, where you came from, how we were able to connect here, and then we'll kind of jump in on what you're doing to help people in the current real estate market.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. You're too kind. So little bit about me. I'm actually a California broker and Nevada realtor. Come from Northern California and lived in Lake Tahoe prior to moving out here and working with Tom. And my husband's originally from Pennsylvania, which is the reason why I decided to make the move out here. Wanted to start a family, and I have a 1-year-old now, so it worked out.
Yeah. It's a lot of work, right?
Oh, yes, a lot of work. And so, I love, still being able to be involved in real estate and, the world I know, but then, still have my weekends free for doing family stuff and such.
So you had real estate experience prior to us connecting.
Yes.
You sold real estate. You were an agent.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing what you know now, I mean, I'm a big believer that you're actually helping a lot of agents find the right environment where they can be successful. So how do you explain that to them, and how does your experience help with that? Because I don't think you really know anything about real estate till you actually sell houses. I mean, you've probably gone through this as well, Stacey. So
yeah, I thought it was one thing when I got started, and it was something completely different. And I'm sure everyone can attest to that. You have this idea of what real estate is before you get started. And then, you just got to take that step and jump in. And so, for me, I started off as a part-time agent, worked in property management and dealing with vacation rentals, was able to kind of generate a client base with getting started there. But even with that client base, it, took me close to a year to generate the relationships to sell my first house. And, a lot of people go through that struggle. And, I've been able to hire agents on our team here who are able to get their first deal in their first 30 days. And I feel like that's pretty remarkable to have, the support, training, and tools to get you there that quickly. And, a lot of it is dealing with, just having someone to show you the ropes and say, okay, here's step A, here's step B. Okay, now we can write the offer. Step C, all right, house is sold. And, just repeating that process, just builds more confidence. And the more you go through it, the easier it becomes.
So, it does sound easy. That's still amazing to me. People can sell a house in 30 days. I mean, how long did it take you? Now you joined in during the COVID pandemic. So let's say once the market opened up, Stace, I mean, I think it was only a couple weeks when you had gotten on board. So,
It was shocking. It was, yeah.
I mean, it took me like 6 months, legitimately.
But the tools were all in place. And that's the key.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you join the team, I know we're kind of getting off subject here, but when you join the team here, the tools are all in place. You don't need to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah, you don't need to overthink it. And you don't then need to think about, okay, how do I, design my marketing, or how do I, deal with this newsletter? Everything's kind of already in place, and then you can just kind of tap in and just start, connecting with people, and you have a brand behind you that, if you haven't sold your first home before, that you can, rely on and say, okay, well, I have not sold a house in this neighborhood, but, my team member has. So when you go to the listing appointment, or if you're dealing with a buyer, you can say, oh, yeah, my team sold, 123 Banana Street up the road. And you can just have that built-in, confidence and rapport to build with the client.
I love that.
So that's awesome, because I struggled with this tremendously, and I was like 22 years old. I looked like I was about 14 at the time. If that didn't help, when I was really getting going. So I'm a big believer, and Stacey, you've heard me say this internally, that if we're not reaching out to folks, whether it's consumers or agents, we're kind of doing them a disservice, and we owe it to them to let them know what actually is possible in the market. We just talked about this in the first segment, letting them know, hey, here's your financing options, here's a meeting.
Mm-hmm.
So do you take that same approach with what you're doing? Because I'm clear there's a lot of agents out there that have no idea the options that exist to get their business off the ground.
100%. When I was an agent, I would tell people it's good to talk to, 2 or 3 lenders before you, get going with things. So that way, what your options are with, what money you have coming in. And then it's the same thing with, being an agent as well. I, interviewed, 3 brokerages when I got started. I always tell people, it's good to see what your options are. You want to do your due diligence. And, something that's good for one person may not be the best for someone else. Everyone has a different learning style. Everyone has a different capacity on, the homes and they want to sell for the year, what their goals are, what that number is. And you want to work with, people that you align with and you jive with. That's going to go a long way.
Yeah, I agree. So Greta,
Mm-hmm.
what was the motivating factor for you to pivot and get out of actually selling real estate and being in the background to being our growth manager?
So I've actually bounced back and forth between, an agent role and an office admin, management role as well before, meeting Tom here. So I've kind of seen both worlds. And, I love the agent side of things. Don't get me wrong, but I do really enjoy having, kind of a set schedule where I can plan my life around and, kind of work on having that work-life balance. I was, I guess maybe that was, maybe a hiccup that I needed to focus in on more, maybe doing a bit better, with my time blocking and my scheduling. And so I really like that I can, have those set hours that I'm working. I can, set my schedule accordingly, as opposed to an agent where, you might be pulled this way or that way. I can more so plan my day out.
every agent set their own schedule and time block, they'd probably be more successful anyway, because most of them don't do that, right? The average agent worked 30 hours last year, so you're still working way more than that person. So, I mean, you came from another brokerage and another brand. What's that change been like? Because I think there's so much talk about, oh, this company's got the best for this, or this company's got the best for that. And I'm a big believer that it's really about the people you're with more than anything else. So what's that been like, transitioning and moving your entire life across the country in the past 2-3 years, having a baby and doing all these things, and how's that? I mean, I think there's a lot to this. Is real life. I think a lot of people struggle with this stuff.
Yeah, no, it's not been easy. I would be lying if it was. So I mean, it's taken each day by day, and figuring it out. But yeah, back to kind of what Tom was saying. Every broker has its own, services that they offer. And I believe everyone, is doing the best that they can and providing the best service, that they can to their agents. But also, you don't know what you don't know. And certain, if you were dealing with, somebody who is not in a big brand and hasn't had that experience, they're not going to be able to show you the steps to get there. Whereas if you're dealing with, a team lead, someone like, Tom, who's selling 90 homes a year, you kind of have that base track record of, okay, like I saw somebody do this. All right, I can then go repeat it, whereas, working with a bunch of other independent agents in an office, you're, kind of on your own, swimming a little bit. Hopefully, you have a mentor or someone you get along with that, can kind of teach you the ropes. Luckily, I did, I had some lovely ladies who taught me how to do an open house and how to write a contract and walked me through all of that. But, without those, lovely friends of my office, I wouldn't have gotten to, the caliber that I did within my career of, selling $1 million house my second year in the business. So,
yeah, I often think about if I'm like you said, you don't know what you don't know. But if I didn't join the team and I was an independent agent, like what that would look like, because I know with where we are, we do have all that support, all the training, and it just makes, for success. Exactly.
You win with people in this business, and I'm a big believer your environment levels you up. So you want to follow Greta. You're at Sold by Greta on Instagram. Is that right? I had to look this up. Stacey's at the #2 Mitchco. You can follow me at Tom Toole 3RD. And again, we're streaming live every week, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. Look up Tom Toole Sales Group if you got some value out of the show here. Give us a like and a follow. That would mean a lot. And we'll be back next week on Toole Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM.